permission to record it so that we can always go back to the video after on. Yeah, so you might not be learning this knowledge today for yourself. Actually, you might be getting it for somebody else beside you. I know of people battling with cold, catarrh, some stomachache, some sore throats. You always see them having sore throats. Why? Because they're actually eating something. I know somebody that was having high blood pressure, but because he stopped eating a particular food, the high blood pressure reduced. So this night, there'll be so many things to learn. And, by the time you are, ending this meeting, I know that you will say, oh, thank God you joined. So with me here today, I know I have a lot of people. I have a lot of daddies, mommies, sisters, friends, even one of my secondary school teacher back in, high school days. I want to say thank you. I welcome you all. My name is Jemima. For those that don't know me, I'm Jemima Solomon Sanu. And today, our main guest speaker for the first webinar, her name is Meti Kola Igunu. Yes. So she will be the one to be taking us. She'll also be sharing some practical experiences. So please just stay tuned. And I'm sure that you will live with a lot of blessings. Okay, so I hand over to her. All right, Ma, you're welcome.
Yes, good evening, everyone, once again. It's a great privilege to facilitate or anchor this webinar. I count it a great privilege because it's a subject that is of great passion and importance for me because of the benefits I've derived personally and severally from people that are close to me, family members and friends. So the subject of our discussion is eat right for your blood type. And I'll just want us to note that this web of what this whole subject of blood type and diet and this evening have heard of it and how much you know of it and how much you have experienced, of it. But this is an attempt to not be aware of, and that may be a lifesaver, literal lifesaver for you or for someone very close to you. So we'll be going ahead with the our thoughts for this evening. Okay, can I share my slide? Let me attempt.
Yes, you can. I was trying to do it, but I couldn't. So that in order not to take time, I think you can just go ahead. Let me share my screen.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So, so like we said, our focus of interaction this evening is eat right for your blood type. And I consider it a timely treasure for anyone who intends to live healthily. And what does this really mean? Can we get to the next slide, please?
Okay. Can you see it?
Okay, thank you. So by way of introduction, we want to, just many people, they don't know how to access the wealth that they don't know how to access the wealth that is available to give their body a healthy body. Issues we're going to be looking at, and a healthy body and your blood type. So it's been observed that many people suffer needlessly and ignorantly from health challenges through the food choices they make. Drew me to this subject. A number of issues I was battling with in my health were linked to my food choices, but ignorantly I didn't even I was having. So the issue of this blood type diet is the product of two people, and it's referred to as a diet for the 21st century. And it's an information that has been on for over 25 years, at least 25 years now running. And it's meant to give hope, confirming the uniqueness of our blood types and the amazing connection our diet has in resolving health issues when we adapt what we eat to foods that our blood type needs. So this presentation and this interaction is born out of personal experiences, you know, like I said, of myself, of my family members and friends that that links to the blood type diet and the remarkable health treasures that lie therein. Next slide, please. So the origin of this blood type diet, as it is known today, is the product of two people, Dr. James Dadamo, who is the father of Dr. Peter Dadamo. Sorry for that error on the slide. And both of them are naturopaths. The Peter Dadamo is the son to James Dadamo, but the James Dadamo started this research. He started it as an observation from his practice as a physician, as a naturopath physician on his patients. He observed from their diet, their physical activity, you know, even the drugs they take, that there is a link between the blood type and the foods the patients took. For example, at that observation stage, he noticed that type A's do poorly on high protein diets, which include meats like beef, like pork, like goat's meat, like all the what Hausa people call kayan chiki, all the shaki and all those things, you know. Type A's have a challenge with that. They did better on, and they did well on vegetable protein like soya, tofu, and other things. So a type A person will do well on what we call hallelujah diet, because it's basically a vegetarian diet, but a type O person would not. So at that level of observation, he also discovered that type O's, on the other hand, they thrived on high protein diets. When they do intense activity like jogging, they just feel good. And even when they are stressed and they engage in some aerobics, it's like it just clears out the stress. But for a type A person doing intense activity, he observed that they'll be so tired and exhausted. But they did well with things that physical activity that involved meditation, reflection, and things like walking, but not intense, high impact, and aerobics and things like that. So with time, when Peter Dadamo, the son, as he was growing up, the father would say, "Don't eat this, it's not good for your blood type." And he would say, "But all my friends are eating it," you know. And it became a subject of curiosity for him. What is my father saying? And that was one of his motivations for being a naturopath physician. He wanted to find out whether there was actually him not eating certain things, whether there was any scientific basis for it. So he went into the research full-fledged by the time he got into the university, and he started studying naturopathy. He started making some very amazing discoveries on that backed up and established the fact that there is actually a strong link between blood type and foods. Can we have the next slide, please? So, what is blood type? When we talk of blood type, before we go into the diet issues, which is the aspect that, we're going to be looking at things we're more familiar with. But when we talk of blood type, what really do we mean? Generally, blood is life. On a general note, whenever you talk of blood, you are talking of life. You are talking of a component of life that determines classification of whether someone is conscious, that is alive, or whether the person is unconscious or dead. So our blood actually carries our life. That is the component that establishes that we're alive. If anything tampers with our blood, every other thing in our body is affected. So that's on a general note. Blood carries both medical or physiological dimensions, and also spiritual dimensions. But in this interaction, we're looking at blood type from the physiological or medical dimension, how it is defined and what it really it focuses on when you talk of medicine and health. So a blood type or a blood group, it's used interchangeably. So you find some people will say blood type, some people will say blood group. It's a classification system to determine compatibility for blood donation and transfusion from someone else. That's the most general dimension in which blood type is used, is for determining compatibility for blood donation or blood transfusion from somebody else. And blood type has four main groups. We have O, we have A, we have B, and we have AB. And each of these four groups or four blood types is usually classified into positive and negative. So you can either be a blood type O positive, blood type O negative, or blood group A positive, blood group A negative. And the same thing applies for B and AB. And this is different from genotype. Genotype, you have the classifications as AA, AS, SS. So we're not talking about genotype here. We're talking about blood type or blood group. Now proceeding, we want to see the relationship between blood type and diet. Now, when this research started at that observation stage and progressed to a full-fledged research with scientific proofs, it's established that there are diets, there are foods that are highly beneficial, that act like medicine for certain blood types. There are foods that nutrients and give energy to a blood type, and there are foods that are to be avoided. They act like poison. So these broad categories apply to each of the blood groups of the patient, where two different people eat something, eat the same thing, but they react differently to it. And it was from those observations, those that react, that food was actually highly beneficial or neutral, or it was safe. Or I was invited for a little get together, and it was a known person that invited us from our office for that get together. We ate the same things, but after the reacted so violently with severe vomiting and stooling and vomiting and stooling, and I didn't know it was linked to something I ate in that meeting. But the others didn't have anything. And from the vomiting and the stooling was so severe that I had to be on admission. Now, some years later, I visited a friend in Cotonou and stooling, and I ended up in the hospital in Cotonou. Then I remembered that before the Cotonou experience, I had information, and I was reading concerning my blood group, which is type A, that shrimps are an avoid, they are to be avoided. And I recollected that in that get together, the hostess prepared salad with shrimps, and everybody ate it, but the reaction was severe. And I discovered that in that restaurant that we went to eat, shrimps was also included in the food. So I now discovered that, in fact, that shrimps is a real poison to me. So I just, that's just one example amongst many. So there are foods that are highly beneficial. From the research, the foods have been classified to foods that really act like medicine because they are highly beneficial. The body of that particular blood type gets very high levels of medicinal effects when they eat such foods. There are foods that are neutral. They are not really like medicine, and they are not poisonous. They can be eaten by that blood type. And then there are foods that act like poison. And for me, shrimps was one of them. So when we talk of blood type and diets, we want to note that there's a peculiarity about your blood that is embedded in food, that foods recognize when you introduce them. And when the food is discontinued, if it's a food that is poisonous, that is not compatible with your blood type, you also see the effect. And one of the things that made it a real passion and concern for me is that people spend money to buy foods that they don't need or that their body doesn't need. Let me put it that way. And it creates health challenges. And they now start looking for money to address those health challenges that they created because they didn't know the reaction, the relationship of that blood type to their health condition. When this subject is raised from experience, many people will be like, so how will we do this one now? This kind of economic situation, don't worry. If this food is not available, don't worry. There are options. That's one of the things I really appreciate with this research work. I'm not the one that carried out the research, but I can confirm largely, I would say 95, 99% of the information I have confirmed in my own body. For example, we grew up eating beef, and because we had this tradition of having a meat club, and we have some families coming together and killing a cow and sharing it. But as a person, I always had a challenge with digesting beef, even from childhood.
Sorry, ma.
I didn't know anything. Hello.
Sorry, ma. I would like to cut you at this point. Zoom will soon move us out of this. It's about 40 minutes. This is not the pro plan. So
Okay.
I've created another link. I'm just saying it for everybody's awareness. So once we get kicked out by Zoom, you can join the new link on the group. That's by 7:45. All right. So ma, you can just continue. So wherever it ends, we'll continue from the other one.
Okay. So I always had a challenge with digesting beef. I would chew and chew and chew, and I would just have whenever I swallow it, it's as if it just sits like a stone in my stomach. And my mom used to scold me as a child, and she would say, how would they serve you meat and you eat that food now, and make sure you eat that meat? And I would